Hello, and welcome to another episode of Body Slams and Dropkicks, the after show. And now we're going to talk about something every fan seems to love to talk about, and that's most overrated wrestlers.
I'll kick this off with John Cena.
Do, 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 do.
Everyone thinks it. I'm not going to say Roman Reigns because I do actually like him, and I still think he's got more in him, particularly now that he has Paul Heyman by his side, which adds an extra dimension that John Cena never had. Hulk Hogan, definitely.
I'm going to go with. I probably have to give it to the Ultimate Warrior.
Don't get me wrong, I did like him, but there was a lot of people who didn't. Andre the Giant once say he was probably one of the most dangerous men to work with.
Yeah, because he basically would just drop you like it's nothing, and you don't do that with Andre. If Andre knows you're messing around, then Andre is going to show you who the big man is in the ring.
Definitely. Overrated. Well, there's Hulk Hogan. Is Kevin Nash overrated?
Kevin Nash is definitely overrated. They hype him up so much as Diesel, but he was one of the lowest drawing WWE champions in history of the company.
And not to mention the fact that the first thing we knew everybody was going to do when they faced him was go through his knees.
Exactly. And I also would give the Scott Hall.
I would as well. So basically what we're saying is the three founding members of the NWO are overrated in their own merit. Is that what we're physically saying here?
That's pretty much what we're saying here.
I'm just expecting next week we'll probably be taken over by the NWO.
NWO invasion.
Cena. I don't think Bray Wyatt's not overrated. I think he's like Chris Jericho. He's kept his character fresh every so often. Do we class? I don't really class Roman Reigns as overrated, even though he is nearing that point of being overrated. I would say it's going to be. I'm going to take a bit of a hit for this, but I think sometimes Adam Cole is a bit overrated.
Really?
I think so. I think the thing is, we could say Finn Balor is, but Finn Balor had his NXT title reign. He went over to the main roster. He's been screwed over that many times. So as far as overrated goes, yes, you could say Adam Cole hasn't had the Finn Balor thing yet. But as far as NXT goes, I think he's still overrated. Yes, he is one of the top stars, but I still think he's getting into the overrated category.
I'd give it to Braun Strowman.
You could say his first title reign was seriously a case of Reigns went away, and he got that. And I think he's been a bit unfortunate.
I think the way they've been booking him's been mostly the problem. Like they had him win the tag titles with a little kid.
Oh yeah, that was.
They had him win the IC title. So how am I going to take him seriously as this big monster man against Bray when you look at the tag title history?
Yes, I can't believe he went through nearly all of that arena just to find a little kid. Isn't that?
I heard it was one of the producers' kids.
Yeah, but isn't that like what gets you thrown in jail?
Yep.
The irony, pure irony. Overrated. Charlotte.
Michelle McCool.
I don't. Is that before or after she became Mrs. Undertaker?
When the whole Lay Cool thing was going on.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I don't think she's overrated as such. I think, to be honest with you, I actually think of her as underrated because back then it was more a case of Beth Phoenix was kind of like the touchstone, like the bar. And I think Michelle McCool was only one of the few people who could have actually touched that bar because basically it was kind of them being in the schoolyard against a load of Rachel McAdams as Regina Georges is one way to look at it.
Well, remember, she united both the Divas and women's title against Mickie James. And then she went on the whole Lay Cool thing. And
so basically what we're saying is after every Diva left in TNA, that's when that women's division was a bit pants, basically.
Pretty much.
God, we're being so vicious tonight, aren't we?
You kind of gotta be. We want wrestling to be better, then we kind of
Mm.
have to say as fans.
Gail Kim is not overrated, not at all.
No, Gail Kim would go underrated.
Definitely. In TNA, yes, she might be a bit overrated, but it's not so overrated in the Kevin Nash sense. I think she was underrated in WWE because she won the title on the first night, and then that was it. They just never really used it. Even when she went back for a second bite at it, she was still crap.
A lot of people feel Madison Rayne's overrated.
I'm kind of glad she's on commentary now. Don't get me wrong. I do like her because I think she is a good heel. But when I watched TNA, like she was kind of overused. I suppose we've got to ask the question whether beautiful people overrated. I'm going to say no because he never shared a tag team title reign. I think Velvet had one and Angelina had one, but they never had one together. And besides, they were like the best heels on TNA at the time. So no, they're not overrated, regardless of what anyone says.
And the WB tried to replicate them with Lay Cool, and that didn't exactly work.
Layla was severely. I don't know if you could class her as overrated because I didn't really. I think because all Lay Cool was basically Michelle McCool with Layla as her. She was McCool was Batman and Layla was her Robin, but nobody really cares about the Robins, do they? Let's be honest.
No, not really, unless it's like Dick, Jason.
Yeah. Nah, Jason dies. Nobody really likes Jason. That's why DC Comic fans in the day voted to have him killed. Let's see what I've got on here. AJ is not overrated. I still think he's phenomenal. He's not just got that name just because he's really good. He is just basically phenomenal.
I know a lot of people feel like Baron Corbin is, but I think Baron Corbin's been doing really good since this whole King gimmick.
Yeah, he's not underrated. I think he's not overrated. I think he's underrated because he's put the work in. Jinder Mahal was severely overrated as champion.
Yeah, honestly, Jinder's really good on the mic. He's good in the ring. It's just the stuff he was forced to do or given just really hurt his reign.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely overrated in that respect. Dare we say the Dudley Boys are overrated? But I'm going to shut that down and say no.
No.
They were just so good at what they did, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're underrated or overrated. They did what they did for tag team, so no, they're not overrated at all.
Vince Russo.
His mouth is overrated, I'll give him that. What about... I was going to say it's JR overrated, but I still think if you put him with Gorilla Monsoon, you have the best combination of commentators in history.
What about Jerry Lawler?
I found him funny. I think he is overrated as a wrestler, but I don't think he's overrated on the mic. I think him and JR actually formed a good partnership back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Is Ric Flair overrated?
That's a dangerous one right there, but
I know. But we're not here. Well, we're not here to go to live silently and peacefully. We're here to live dangerously.
Ric Flair is overrated.
There we go. That's it. Bring your best, mate.
Stuck around way too long.
Yeah, but I'm glad he went 12 years ago because for a fact he wouldn't have survived with everything that's gone on today.
Bischoff? Well, he did have that match in Impact against Mick Foley.
Yeah. Is Mick Foley overrated?
No, honestly, Foley is probably one of the best all-around entertainers. Like when he's been Dude Love, Mankind, Cactus Jack. I think Foley is you could give the exception to because of like how entertaining he is, how nice he is to his fans, all the stuff he's accomplished in and out of the ring.
If someone said that to me, I would say, right, you go and rewatch King of the Ring 98 against Undertaker, Hell in a Cell. You watch that and tell me he's overrated. Because he isn't.
Exactly. Leo Rush.
If we're talking one's mouth, then yes, it is overrated. If we're talking one's talent, no. I think he's overrated in his mouth department, but I think. Well, I've never really liked him anyway. I didn't even like him when he was Lashley's best mate, to be honest. So I don't think he's underrated or overrated. I just kind of think that he was there basically to do a purpose, and then basically he hasn't been thought of since.
Randy Orton, because we might as well just go head deep.
Yeah, we might as well go deep into the treasures of WWE. Is Orton overrated? Can we class him as overrated?
I could class him as overrated because they had him backpedaling the whole Legend Killer thing. He's back to doing the pose and everything, and it just. I feel like Orton got lazy along the way. Like one of my friends who's a diehard Orton fan said at one point he feels Orton's just got lazy.
Excuse me. It is a bit of a tough question for me because he's done a lot throughout his 18 years in WWE. He's done a lot. He's carried the company. He is prepared to step up. I mean, is he overrated compared to Hunter? No. Is he close? Maybe. So, just with how I feel about him, I think how good he is. So I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt this once, but I will say that I think he's getting a little bit closer to overrated than a lot of the people on our list that we've already said are or were.
Batista.
You go and have a conversation with a 290-pound guy who could literally break your neck. I'm not having that conversation.
I would put him in the underrated. Really good when he first showed up.
Yeah, he was a beast.
Really good when he was the heel against Cena. And that last run, I feel like they were trying to push him.
I've always loved Dave Batista. I always have. He debuted in 01. Sorry, he scared the shit out of me because he was just pure intense. You knew that literally when they said he was an animal, you knew he was. Is he overrated? I don't think he is. Because
and I'm still hoping for him versus Lesnar.
I don't think that'll happen. I think that's Dave's retired on what he wanted. He fought Hunter not this year's WrestleMania, last before. He said he's officially done. I know this because when at Saudi shows, they wanted Batista, but they literally said he's retired. So
which is unfortunate.
Yeah, he's not overrated, not by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, as far as a world champion goes, he is underrated.
But now we go with the big one, Triple H.
Can we really class him as overrated, even though he's done so much for the company? Yes, you could say his early 2000s was severely a case of overratedness because it was like he was force-fed down our throats for a year.
I would say Evolution Triple H was overrated.
Because I know that's probably how they wanted it, but that basically those first 3 years I started watching WWE, so we're talking 20 years ago, that was when Triple H had the John Cena or Roman Reigns treatment when he was constantly shoved down our throats, but nobody really complained about it.
Which is odd because usually it always sounded like someone's complaining about Triple H.
But maybe it's because that he's that good. I think he's not overrated.
I think whatever he works with, he can utilize it. So if he needs to be overrated to get someone over, he can do it. I think Triple H is that rare case that he can flip the switch on and off for either way, depending if he wants to get over. It's just that 1 year of Roman Reigns in the main event, that was just a really rough year that the fans wanted Daniel Bryan, didn't get him.
Yeah. So we're saying he is overrated, but he's not overrated. Is that what we're basically saying here?
Yeah, we're pretty much doing a thorough list, and that's why we're dissecting it. We're talking about it.
Well, that's definitely a first. There's someone who's overrated but not overrated.
Pretty much.
We are coming up with first here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, all right. It's all right. I know she's not a wrestler, but is Stephanie overrated?
I would say when Stephanie showed up, she was, because it was the whole, Daddy's Princess
Yeah.
getting handed the women's title and
Yeah, that
everything.
was.
Later Steph, when it was like the mixed tag matches, her versus Brie Bella, I would say that was like the best incarnation of Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah. Because I loved her when she was SmackDown GM in 02, because that was sort of a coming of age a bit for her. Because she went out of her heel phase and she went into like a real nice phase. So it was kind of like, wow, she actually is good as a face. Maybe she should do this more often.
Personally, I like her better as a face than I do a heel.
I do. But yeah, she can do a heel, but I think the problem is, as a movie man, sometimes being a heel too much can sort of dictate how your career goes and how other people view you. I mean, I think she's perfect as a face because I think a face is more as to say about who she is. It's kind of like Goldberg. When he was in WCW, he was a face nearly every single day, wasn't he? And then when he turned heel, because we should point out Goldberg was kind of like the John Cena of WCW because he was doing he did all these charities, he did all these appearances, and he actually, I seem to remember somebody saying one day he went to him saying, "How can I be a heel in the ring and basically do what I do during the day? It's not possible." So I think she's a good heel, but I think sometimes being a heel isn't a good thing for her, not nowadays anyway.
Exactly, because I think she'd work a lot better as face now, especially after everything, because she always did really good as GM. She's entertaining. She knows how to play the crowd, and she just is. To me, she has a more likable personality as a good guy than as a heel.
Yeah. All right then. Since we're on the mention of GMs, what about Teddy Long?
I love Teddy Long, so I gotta say he's
His
not overrated.
all right? Is his tonight? You will go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker. Is that overrated or is that just a piece of planting genius?
He drops the Undertaker, and everybody goes home happy. And just you gotta love Teddy Long, like just player and like all the ridiculous stuff he did.
I got you, player. I feel you. That
I
sounds
think
so bad coming from a white man.
I think SmackDown was like him when he was GM of SmackDown was like some of the best times.
Yeah, I actually really. This was when 2002 when he was GM after Stephanie was let go. He's still my favorite SmackDown GM to this day with Steph a close second. Do you know what? Should we do one for WrestleMania's benefit? What about Sonny?
Oh, you just want to like poke the lion now, don't
I do,
you?
mate. Yeah.
All right.
I think severely overrated. Granted, what she did when she was in WCW was ballsy, but I still think she's overrated. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Fabulous Moolah's 1,000 days, or however many reigns she had as a women's champion back in the 70s and 60s, was way, way overrated.
I'll top you here, Sable.
I'll tell you what, you have that conversation with her when Brock Lesnar's nearby, because I'm not. To be honest with you, I didn't really see her that much because I kind of got into WWE a bit late. But I'm going to say when she came back in 2000, I thought she wasn't so overrated, but she was just being a bitch. But then again, that's what a character is. So as far as overrated goes, I don't think she was. But then again, I didn't really see much of her in the 90s, so I can't really say.
I feel like she'd get over even more now. Like with this heel, if she was in Brock's corner to get Brock more heat and everything, I think it would work really well for him right now.
All right. While we're touching the subject, is Brock Lesnar overrated? Me personally, yeah, it's a bit iffy, isn't it? Just because of everything that goes on in WWE. I think it's kind of like a thin line with him because yes, he's had all these title reigns, but if we're talking about pure talent, then the answer is he's not overrated because he has got that talent.
The way they book him you could consider him overrated, where they were doing the whole special appearance thing, and I get that kind of plays up the title prestige, but after a while, you tend to forget who the actual champion is, which hurt. And I don't think when Brock chased the belt, when he's taking out like Mark Henry, Big Show, and all them, if they already had the belt on him when they did that, it would have really cemented his reign of being like this terror if he was just coming in, taking out all the top faces. But I can't consider Brock overrated because like Brock, when he comes in, will give you really good matches, and the whole Suplex City thing, he's playing to the crowd with that, and people loved it. And the Brock Party thing is probably my favorite.
That was actually
Brock
quite funny.
Lesnar thing.
Because I actually thought, because I actually tuned into an episode of Raw once, I kept thinking, what the fuck am I watching? Is that really Brock Lesnar having treated like a beatbox?
But if they booked him like the way near the end when they were booking him, when we saw him a lot more on TV, when he was like combating guys back and forth, if they did that from the beginning of his reign and I'm dropped like Big Show, Mark Henry, if they had Nash come back trying to like flex on him and take him out, and Triple H's buddies and Triple H, and when Brock was breaking arms and everything, like that would have cemented that reign so much like sweeter to the fans.
Because one thing I always remember about Brock Lesnar is in his first year, he just did so much. Because when he debuted, he just literally ripped the shit out of half the roster. That's the Brock Lesnar I remember.
23 years old, and that was probably like the best version overall of Brock. Like if they gave the new fans that right away and they put the belt on him quickly and had him doing all the stuff he was doing as champion, that would have really helped this reign. If they had him stick around more and battle all the fan favorites like Styles and all of them, like he would have been like the guy to watch. Like Cena being like scared having that chain on his hand and everything. Like if all of that was during like all of Brock's title reigns, that would have cemented him as like one of the greats.
So basically, I don't think Brock Lesnar's overrated. I think he's been made to look overrated because of how he's been booked, like you said. But me personally, I don't think he's overrated at all.
No, I don't think he's overrated. I just think they need to just utilize him better, give him a few more dates of being on TV, which I know it's like Brock costs a lot, but overall it will help a lot more.
I'm just trying to think. Oh yeah, what about Shawn Michaels?
That one's pretty hard, but I'm gonna go with no, because he's always lived up to being Mr. WrestleMania. Even when he seemed like he had that senile gimmick where he's rolling around on desks and super kicking entire buildings. Shawn's like Jericho, where he can flip that switch.
I must admit, I did miss a lot of a 90s Attitude Era, and I do actually know what he was like in the 90s. But if we're going past 2000 when he came back, I'm going to say no.
I'm going to go with no.
All right, shall we switch it up a bit and go from? All right, is Chris Jericho overrated? I'm going to say no, because I don't want him finding this and then tweeting me and saying, "Get another fucking job, Junior," because I'm not. No, I'm not. A, I'm not having that, and B, he's not over. I'm generally saying he's not overrated.
I love Chris Jericho as a wrestler, so I'm gonna have to say no. Like he's all around. I would say you could, when you're talking about the greatest, Jericho is always in that conversation. Like, look how long he's been in the business. Look at all the things he's done inside, outside the ring, all the belts he's had.
Yeah. All right. What about Dwayne? Come on, we can't have a conversation of overrated without at least mentioning Dwayne. I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna go no, because Dwayne The Rock Johnson's the perfect example of when WWE got that different stitch when it comes to actually developing characters.
And the other thing is, obviously, he left in 2002, 2003, and he's been back like in bits and bobs. But I think even if he would have stayed, the answer would still be no, because everyone tires of Roman Reigns. I mean, he was constantly shoved down our throats for years. Dwayne was sort of, well, I'm not going to say shoved down our throats at first, because they had to build him up, obviously. But when he was in the pay-per-views, like every main event, every single pay-per-view for what felt like 2 years, right up until he left, not once did I say we're seeing too much of him. I just enjoy. I think majority of wrestling fans who have actually watched him would just say that regardless of whether he's underrated or overrated, his mic skills just put everything else in the rearview mirror.
The Rock was good inside and outside of the ring. So I think he's the perfect example as someone that you can't really view as overrated.
But you can't. People make the conversation, but you can't. Not to mention, in the first couple of years, he probably could have had that, but he just comes back on a part-time basis, so I don't think that really counts as much.
He comes back when he need, like Sean. Like Sean comes back when he needs to, but he doesn't overstay the welcome.
Exactly. I was going to say, like, who's Dwayne Face that we could possibly get into? Is Big Show overrated? No.
No, Big Show's problem is a lot like Brock's. It's just the issues of booking, flip flopping from face to heel, and
what about Mark Henry? I actually think Mark Henry is underrated, not overrated.
Mark Henry's underrated. Like he won the European title, he didn't have anything for a long time. Then he got the ECW title, world title, and what he pulled on John Cena when he was convincing the world that he was retiring everything. Like Mark Henry is always going to be up there.
Not to mention he had to lay in a bed with Mae Young.
So Mark Henry is pretty much underrated.
If you have to tolerate that, you do not get to say, if you do not get the right to say that Mark Henry is overrated when he's not. All right, is Seth Rollins overrated?
No, I'm gonna go with no because
I don't think he is.
He's the heel that we've been needing for a while.
Definitely. All right. Should we try and move away from WWE because we could go through their roster all day? Matt Hardy, I think, is severely underrated. Severely.
Matt Hardy's really underrated, especially when he won the ECW title, and like Edge said, like you won the title and nobody cared, and you hear people agreeing with that. But Matt Hardy was probably the hardest worker that you'd ever see in the ring, who really should have hit that next level, just like his brother Jeff. Because even Matt said he did more of the solid wrestling in the ring, which would sometimes get overshadowed by Jeff doing the big flips.
Yeah. We'll say Dean Ambrose, but it's actually the Mox. I'm going to say not at all. In WWE, he was basically the Shield member that was basically dumped down the toilet.
That is true.
Because he did not. To be fair, he was supposed to be the version in WWE that he is now in AEW. So you can't really say he's overrated because he never really got a chance to be overrated.
And the U.S. title reign, he had that for 300 some odd days, and they barely had him defend it. Yet, they were over as could be the Shield.
To be fair, he didn't as such. However, when Evolution came into the fold, he had to defend it every single night, didn't he?
Pretty much.
I can't really comment on Kenny Omega. I know of his reputation, but aside from AEW, I don't know that much about him. Good Brothers are not overrated. I think if anything, I can't even say it now. Underrated because I think the reason people might think they're overrated is because they know AJ Styles, but the fact is they are underrated as hell.
They're one of the best teams that really should have gotten a bigger go than what they got, and they even worked Mania and still got released, which doesn't make any sense.
All right. I don't mean this to sound a bit mean when I say this, but is the majority of the Samoans in WWE overrated? Because we know Roman Reigns is overrated. I think the Usos are overrated. I don't think Rikishi is. Naomi is severely underrated, as we've kind of touched on already. But it's just you could go through half of the wrestling lot. You could probably say a Samoan. So I think majority of the Samoans that I've seen wrestle, you could say it's a case of a lot of them are underrated, but some like Roman and the Usos are overrated. AOP is severely underrated. Severely. Rock,
the Authors of Pain should have been bigger.
Yeah. We've said everything about Dwayne. You can't touch that. Roman Reigns, we know, is overrated. All right. Nia Jax is severely overrated, and I don't care what she says to me on Twitter. She is severely overrated.
Nia Jax needs a bit more work in the ring.
She needs a
especially
lot more work.
after all the stuff that happened with Kyrie Sane and then preaching about trying to protect your friends working with dangerous workers. And I feel like because of her family, she's a little more protected and getting leeway,
it's like,
which
yeah,
shouldn't be allowed. Like they should have busted her back down to NXT's training and everything and had her work off screen for 6 months until incidents wouldn't happen.
I mean, we've covered this before. I mean, even because you can actually hear, this is when WWE was at the Performance Center in no audience. Kyrie said, you can hear her saying, I'm not set, but she still lobbed her anyway.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes it a bit, well, you say you're friends, but yet you just lobbed her.
And they shouldn't have had Sane still working with her after all those incidents either. Like it was like back-to-back incidents, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah. Shayna Baszler is not overrated. If anything, she's more underrated because she's got so much talent.
She just needs the right opportunity and the right feud to get over.
To be fair, she could have won the tag titles on her own at Payback.
That would have been entertaining.
That was entertaining. The way she could have made both of them tap out while only using two arms. Sorry.
It would have been funny seeing her shop around for a tag team partner, though.
It's all right. We know EY's not. Is Eddie Edwards overrated?
That is a mixed one because Eddie Edwards had a lot of development over the years. People could argue that Davey would be because he's more like in-ring skill than on the microphone. Like what you see is what you get with Davey. So Eddie, I'm gonna say Eddie's not overrated. I liked the old Eddie Edwards compared to the new Eddie Edwards.
Him and Davey Richards Wolves, just some of the best matches I've watched live because they just are so great together. It's a shame they broke up. Obviously, we know why. Who's on the Impact roster? But we know EY's not because EY's it can just be utilized brilliantly in Impact. All right, is Moose overrated?
I'm going to say no. Moose has probably been one of the best wrestlers that's been utilized, and the storyline he has with EC3 right now is probably like some of their best work.
I don't think he is either. It's actually quite hard because I don't think a lot in Impact overrated. If anything, I think I'll say 90% of people in Impact are underrated.
They're definitely underrated, and they're one of the best companies that, for some reason, just slipped under the radar for a while. And I'm hoping they make that comeback because they have the right roster to do it. They just need to pull in a few extra people and go from there.
Shall we end that one there? Because I must admit I'm struggling with people to think.
Yeah, we'll end it there today.
All right, we'll end it there. Hopefully, the next time we have this debate, we can have our other co-host with us, and he can give us a few more names.
Yeah.
Right, thank you very much for watching. As usual, you will find me on Twitter as Final Cut Talk and Final Cut Gaming. Obviously, we three are on Twitter and on Insta as well, and Facebook. I'm on Facebook on the Final Cut Reviews, and I'm also on Insta as Final Cut.
I'm on Instagram as Beautiful Michael. I'm on Twitter as 5-Star Wildcard. If you want to talk wrestling, that's where you can find me. And have a good night.
See you next time.